Next story is Bo Nix. Now, this is crazy, Colin. So, obviously, Bo Nix is out of the playoffs, completing a good season, had a very good rookie year. However, we're just now hearing that he competed in the second half of the season with a fractured bone in his back. What? Nix talked about it during the exit interview.
The Vegas week was just, I had a little, transverse process fracture from my back. But that week got treatment and kind of made it through to that week. Monday Night Football, it was a stretch that we were all kind of banged up. And, I wasn't going to miss the first Monday night game. So I got treatment on it, and then we were fortunate to have an off week that next week. And, kind of went away after that. But for that moment, it was, annoying, but we all play with annoying things.
Yeah. Interesting that we never heard. I mean, I didn't see any reports about that, but I'm looking. So that Raiders game is when he got the injury. The next game was the Monday game against Cleveland. Right. Bo Nix runs a lot. He did not run at all against the Cleveland Browns. And he was spraying the ball all over, 18 of 35. He hit the big 93-yarder or whatever. But then they had the bye week, so there was some luck there. But kind of interesting that Sean Payton was just, not revealing a back injury, a procedure, if you will.
Well, why?
I'm not. That. Come on. We live in an NFL where you got to tell us.
I do not
what
like.
The injuries are.
I'm very consistent on this. When I started this business 30 years ago, I probably said it in my first 5 years, and I've said it once a year for 30 years. I do not like injury reports. I don't like you telling me who's vulnerable. I mean, seriously, if you're a defensive lineman and have a bad left knee, I'm an offensive lineman. I'm like, go for the knee.
Okay, 30 years ago, that's fine. Now we're in a gambling world. It's legal in 40
I
states?
don't care.
We need to know. Gamblers need to know.
Oh, gamblers.
They need this information.
Oh, okay.
All right. It's funny that they brought up gambling. That's the only reason why injury reports are really so popular right now. And I'm on the fence in terms of should injury reports be labeled, because it's actually an interesting point, right? Why do you need to know who's injured and who's not, who's banged up and who's not? I'd have to think about that more, because it's also kind of like a handshake with coaches, where you're like, I'm preparing for you, you're preparing for me, and it kind of adds into that whole game. Is so and so in? Are they out? Like, if you take away injury reports, and no one has to say anything right until game time. So I don't know. I haven't thought about it too deeply, honestly. But in terms of Bo Nix playing through, he's just like a little transverse process fracture. Like, that's just such a crazy statement to say. Now, listen, I've had a lot of injuries, a lot of broken bones, surgeries. Ligaments, tendons. I've had so many different, surgeries and all of that. I'm not going to act like, I have a lot of experience with a transverse process fracture in the back. So I won't speak too deeply about that whole thing, but I do think it's pretty awesome how he continued to play and all of that. I mean, I just think Bo Nix is a baller, man. I really, really do. And yeah, he maybe didn't run as much on that Monday night game against the Browns, but I remember loving that game. I know it was definitely not a perfect game, but that was the game where they just kept having Bo Nix throw on third downs. He was moving. Okay, so when they say he wasn't running, he was still moving. I mean, he's a quick mover. He really moves in and out of the pocket. Like I always say about Bo Nix, he's so intentional, and the guy is just filled with energy, but it's this calm energy. It's just. And he had that. I don't remember exactly that game, but I think that was a bunch of games where he was making some throws from his own end zone, third down, a lot of high level moments that I just remember being this is great, this is awesome. I do remember also that the Browns, Jameis Winston definitely gave the Broncos some gifts that week as well. That can't be denied. I think that's when whoever it was, feasted, had 200 yards, something outrageous as well. So I remember that being a fun game, but it's, again, this is some of the stuff. I actually just made a video yesterday talking about this. This week there was really there wasn't a ton of content. There was a fair amount of content of the Denver Broncos and Bo Nix going up against Buffalo. Of course, it was one-sided, understandably so. Buffalo Bills have been there for years now, and clearly, the better team, and that's understandable. It makes sense. But then even after the game, I kind of take issue how I couldn't find anything on NFL Live, on Get Up, First Things First. I heard none of these shows had like, let's talk about the Denver Broncos team. Let's talk about Bo Nix. Let's talk about the season. Let's talk about the game. Like, it was just like Buffalo Bills, Buffalo Bills, Buffalo Bills. And again, they're the better team. They're the hotter team. They have a legitimate chance at winning the Super Bowl. Josh Allen could be the MVP. Like, so I get it, but it was just like, can't we just have like 5 minutes where we talk about this game? Can't we just unpack this game for just a moment? Like, like, can we talk about Bo Nix? It's like, I think he played great ball. I think he legitimately played great ball. Like, I know that game did not go how they wanted to, but I still think it was really good. I mean, it was 10-7 at half. It should have been tied. I mean, that's a massive victory. And that was because Bo Nix obviously put up the 7 and marched them down the field to tie the game up. And it just didn't unfold that way. You had the fake punt. Like, I mean, like, there were some really awesome things. But then there were some bad drops, which I highlighted in my previous video. And it was just like the drops in the playoffs on the road, rookie quarterback with not a super high-powered dominant offense. Like, you can't overcome it. You can't overcome it, and that just really hurts you. And this game could have gone in a different direction. Like, it could have been a significantly closer game, but they just obviously came up short in that regard. But I just think, considering everything, Bo Nix, 13 for 22, 144 yards, 6.5 yards per attempt, 93 rating. And again, you talk about him not running. He was 4 carries for 43 yards, 10.8 yards per carry. I mean, like, he was the leading rusher. And that's why I said, too, in my post-game, my immediate post-game breakdown of this game, it was like, Bo Nix was Josh Allen light. He was Josh Allen earlier in Josh Allen's career when Josh Allen didn't have the support, didn't have the run game, like and I just think that Bo Nix composed himself so well. We see these young quarterbacks completely falter, throwing picks, really bad throws where you're just like, oh my God, you are costing the team right now. You are truly a weakness. You do not watch that game and say Bo Nix is a weakness. Again, was Bo Nix perfect? Obviously not. No, I don't think a single quarterback that entire weekend was perfect. But like, you don't watch that game and say, oh, man, if we had a better quarterback, Bo Nix was just 2-3 years older, in his career. We have a real chance. I'm choking myself. We have a real chance to win this game. That wasn't the case. You don't watch that game and just say Bo Nix was a liability. Bo Nix held this team back. That is a massive, massive, massive victory. Massive victory for Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos. And that's why I keep trying to tell fans, like, you should be just ecstatic. You should just be so pumped, so excited. I mean, I just think it was high-level football, even if it was limited. And like I had shown in the other video, when you look at PFF, he was a 3rd-ranked quarterback. And again, it has to be put in context because you have Russell Wilson at 4. Russell Wilson was definitely not 4. I mean, the truth is Jaylen Daniels should be higher. Jaylen Daniels balled out, and that's why when you just look at stats and you don't put things necessarily in like game context, it can be a little bit misleading. But like, again, what this shows me is that like, he did not need to be rescued. He did not need to be, kind of like, oh man, we got to really work around this. Like, he played high level football, especially considering what was asked of him. He did exactly what was asked of him, and he didn't fail at that. What more can you ask? If I'm asking you to do something and you succeed at doing that thing, even if it's not enough, you did what I asked you to do. You met the expectations that I put forward for you. That was always going to be a tough game. It was always going to be tough. The Broncos were always going to need to rely on the Bills not playing their best game, or the defense really, really able to just put up a gem of a game where they just completely stifled the Bills. And they did for the first half. Again, the score should have been 10-10. 10-10 going into the second half against the Buffalo Bills on the road, rookie quarterback. That's insane. That's massive. But the Bills are the Bills. Josh Allen is Josh Allen. No matter how great a defense is, great quarterbacks find a way. All-time great quarterbacks find a way. I believe Josh Allen is an all-time great quarterback. So that's just what happens, But I think the optimism going into this offseason and into the next season should legitimately be just nothing but through the roof. I think there should be real optimism with the feeling, again, it all depends on what happens in free agency and draft and all that. And even in the draft, you're going to have to get lucky, right? You're going to have to find that hidden gem where they're like, whoa, no one saw this coming, like, which the draft is always filled with. So if you get lucky with that, get lucky with health, it's like, I really think the Broncos should like legitimately be competing for the division with the Chiefs, with the Chargers. I think this coming year, like, those three teams will like actually be beating each other up. It's not just going to be go 2-0, 2-0, 2-0. Like it's going to be like legitimately like, hey, we split all around. And then it's going to be like, who slips up, who's able to get that easy win against like the Jags, or who drops the ball against the Raiders. Like, that's probably what it will come down to. And that's awesome because the Broncos have been irrelevant for a decade and now they're relevant. So, I got nothing but positives to say. And I just wish there was a little bit more content kind of discussing that, breaking it down and talking about it. But you know what? Hey, I'll fill that role. I'm okay with that. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Bo Nix and Denver Broncos playing with his transverse process fracture in his back, how the season ended, how it all unfolded? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.